Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? It's me, Dakanoth. Just thought I'd report in and let you guys all know how KVK went. So, KVK, we ended up losing a four-way KVK. Now, interestingly enough, these guys, a little surprised by that. Whopping two, so there's that. Our guild came in at 14, which is fine. We didn't win base, which kind of sucked. And then I took a single rally, got 54 million points. Now, that rally, like usual, I kind of fur bombed the piss out of it. And by fur bombed, I don't know. It was messy. It was awfully messy, man. It was just, I don't know. Every time. It was, I don't know. Yeah, it's like, pretty much, I ended up capping him, but I lost 3.7 mil in the rally. And as you might imagine, it was infantry. I was in range. And at the time, I didn't really have any time to turn because basically I was outside. So it kind of happens during KVK. I wasn't really paying attention. So I wound up getting hit with infantry. Seems like every time I turn around, these guys always send freaking infantry. Beginning to think I maybe need to send infantry. I don't know. You tell me, guys. But as that might look bad on paper, I ended up getting about 2 mil of this back. 600k went in there, and then the 800k or so T4s, I didn't really lose. Like, I got most of them back, so it was kind of a wash in a sense. I didn't really lose anything, and I also got 54 million points on a single rally, which I thought was kind of interesting. Now, given all the commotion, as you guys are probably aware, I think a lot of people are probably starting to wake up to the fact that this game is starting to get a little ridiculous, right? I mean, we've got new imp pieces, we've got people that are running basically a temporary, I don't know, between LHFM getting completely obliterated and everything else going on. I mean, for the few of you that don't know what's going on, I guess I could kind of explain it to you this way. So when you go on here, you go to rankings, right? And you go world rankings. It seems like this always goes upside down, but I vaguely remember there being a lot more 20 billion might players, and now there's not. Now you have more of your 9 or 10 billion, which tells me something. All the people that had money, who had troops, they lost it. And so I think there's a lot of people from a lot of the other Titan guilds that have really lost interest in the game. And it shouldn't be any surprise, seeing as how some of the mightiest guilds in the game now are really reaching pretty ridiculous points. But you have to think, it's like, okay, looking at like even the Zinki squad, for example. Okay, every single one of these individuals has all put a lot of money in the game. And frustratingly enough, I've already kind of told you my grievances with rally trapping, which is that now, as opposed to sitting there going, yes, he's sending infantry, I will swap and go cavalry. I can't even do that anymore. Like, I just pretty much have to commit to a lineup and say, all right, the guy's going to send whatever he's going to send, and I'm just going to swap gear. That's all I get to do now. I don't get to decide whether or not I want to counter him. I don't get that choice anymore. I'm not even going to pretend that I have that choice anymore. And, while, yes, some people are suggesting, just make a macro, click a macro. I'm not going to go down that route. Like, I have no desire at all to go down the rabbit hole of using a macro to just win a fight. Like, it's stupid for it to be that way. And I don't know. I think the game's natural progression has always been leading up to this point. It's just, I think the more IGG tweaks the game, the more and more I'm beginning to hate the game. And it's only because it's in one way more than another. I think it's the test of time. I've been playing Call of Dragons quite a bit. It's, hey, for the handful of you guys out there that know what I've been doing, know what up, that's ultimately where I've been investing a lot of my time. That isn't to say I don't, play different games. I mean, I obviously do. I started playing a game called Big Ambitions, which was pretty interesting. But as far as KVKs go, I mean, really about all I do nowadays is just sit around, wait for a KVK, and trap, and that's it. And then I go back to, hopping on my main, using my main account to rally. Now, Kremdor happens to have a 10-piece champ account that we're, playing around with now, and Derpy Dolphin's the name. And so it's like, we basically have the capacity to go around and hit players. It's just, I think that, that point in time when I was telling people that it was like, there's going to come a point when it makes more sense to be the rally lead. I think we've hit that point, guys. Because it's not that you can't rally trap. It's not that you can't solo trap. It's that why would you want to do either one? The incentive to do it compared to what I would have done 2 years ago is nowhere near the same. The entry point to even spend is nowhere near the same. Like, it's to the point now where IGG has basically got it to a point where I just don't feel like it's worth it. And while sure the game is still going to progress without me, I'm sure, and there will be some that tell me with it you're just crying and complaining and all that jazz. Which for the handful of you out there, hey, that's it's up to you to decide. But I think for a lot of us that have played this game for several years at a time, you probably will come to this consensus yourself on your own eventually, sooner or later, that the game is rigged against you, and that in a way you really have no control over. It's a pay to win game, but it's pay to win in an extreme that even in a crowd of pay to win games, this game seems more pay to win than almost every other game around it. That's saying something. When you can compare it to something else and they're like, oh, well, for the same amount of money, I could have a better experience and it's more fun. And you look at this game and you go, what a money sink. I don't want to do this anymore. There's no one to blame but them and them alone. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Now, in all fairness, I've been playing this game in and out for a number of years, and I think some of the suggestions that I've been given was, well, if your account's not able to take a rally, just add more might. Swap and go in here, do more research, do the army leadership, get these bonuses. Other suggestions were, oh, we'll go in the familiar battles, get that 5th slot. Or, oh, well, hey, if you're really struggling and you don't have, this, go get T5. It's like everyone's suggestions is always add more might to your account and make it so no one will rally you. And then there's always the option of, well, if you do get rallied, get screwed because the people who rally are not going to fight you. It's like, okay, well, this is a zero-sum game. In a 4-way KVK, the game was dead in an hour. Okay, I remember times when a KVK was nowhere near as dead as it was, and it's easy for everyone to see. And the reason why is because what incentive does a bunch of people sitting around base have to hit other players nowadays? Literally none. Considering that, if somebody hits me now, I can basically heal most of it back. I'd have to take successful multiple rallies before it really starts to actually wear any damage on me. And for the people invading me, it's like the only incentive now they have is the points. And even then, they don't care. The points are not, it's not a factor anymore. It's like nobody cares about KVK scores. There's no incentive anymore. And it's no longer there. And with systems like the Artifact Hall even, where, it's like, okay, I can get an antique chest every day. It's like, well, who the hell's going to bother when you've got such an intricate system of upgrades that will make it passively more difficult for a player on the bottom end of the scale to even compete against the guy that's spending an upwards of $1,000 a week. It's not the same. But, I gripe. There'll be the people that play free to play, and there's always challenges, right? It's just, in some ways more than one. I just feel like a vast majority of the experience that this game once had is kind of losing its luster in some ways more than one. For at least me. I just feel like the point and click system that this game kind of rooted itself on is starting to lose its luster in more ways than one. And I think it really comes down to the fact that I just like the fact that now I'm sitting here, I can't really dictate the time between marches anymore. Can't really determine whether or not, so I can defend against somebody anymore. And while I can rally players, it's always a gamble now. It's a gamble on a 50-50 shot of whether I'll actually win or lose. And I don't like gambling on a 50-50 shot anymore. I like to be certain in knowing that if I'm going to take an attack, I'll win, or I'll have a way to win. If it's a skill-based system, right? But when you take the skill out of it, it becomes gambling at that point. And what's the point in gambling? There is none. Because most of the time you lose. And the few times you win, it just feels like luck. And if it's luck that really is what ultimately wins the battle, that's not really a game to me anymore. It's like it loses its potential for me as a player to kind of look at it strictly as a game of actual skill. It loses that completely. Because who's to say the guy is sending a rally in 7 seconds, sure, that's plenty of time to react for some people, but I don't know, it's just past a certain point, it's like, okay, the guy has the ability to basically flip a table should anyone hit him. And he can also flip a table if somebody he hits successfully gets countered. It's like, I don't know, kind of a mess. But needless to say, I think a lot of people in the community in general are probably feeling this way. And there's not really a whole lot of incentive to continue. I mean, it's just not really there. I still play the game off and on, and it's like, I think there's a lot of what I would call buyer's remorse. It's like people that would play this game, and I don't think it's talked about, so I'm just going to talk about it because, somebody that played this game for several years, it's not uncommon for people to literally spend like $20,000. And that sounds absurd because it's hard to imagine that. But there are people that it's like, it's common, and yet they're not even the high end players in this game. The people that have like $100,000 or more in their accounts are the people that are in full sets of champ gear. And those are the only guys that are really doing any major scene actions in games like Battle Royale or the Barons. And then it's like, even on top of that, the ridiculousness of those events in themselves are really only excluded to really only a handful of the top echelon of the player base. And the rest of us that are just kind of trying to get on by or just play it for fun, it's like, what's the point? It just loses pretty much any point that a person could have, and that's, I think, the only problem I have is it's a keep up with the Jonas's mentality, and it's always been this way. It's just a fair warning to the people that have never played this game, because it's a barrier to entry in this game. It's like that is the, if you're playing it in the New Kingdoms, you don't really recognize that until you're out of a restricted kingdom, and then you're like, yes, this is why this game's kind of leaving a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. It's like, it's hard to put that in perspective until you really have had the experience that I've had. And not to say that I haven't met a lot of fun, people to get to know and everything, but like every game in the world, it's like, it doesn't always have to be that way. And so in more ways or not, I was trying to kind of find a new way to, kind of spend my time finding different ways to trap, different ways to go about playing the game. It's just, I don't know, it makes me gripe every time I turn around the corner. There's always this, newer thing that they add that, the first go around with it was, oh yeah, they'll add T5. Oh yeah, they'll add artifacts. Oh yeah, they've added, 11k heroes before that, way before any of this. And it's just like, now people can go back and look at this game 3 years ago and actually tell at what point when things started to go south. And then now it's like, here they've added all these features and mechanics, but in a sense, it's really kind of called power creep. And after a certain point, you get to a point where literally the power creep is so bad that the guy on the lower end of the spectrum is going, what is the point in playing this game? Because this has effectively become if I've got all the doodads and one end of the corner, I've got all the benefits, and if I don't have the doodads, then you can get screwed. Pretty much spend no time whatsoever. But even like kills don't really have any merit anymore. People that are wondering about trapping at 500 to 600 mil, it's like, yeah, you can trap. I would say the only thing that really kind of stood out to me is like kind of barriers to entry and trapping nowadays is you just need to have around 2 mil T4 and 6 mil or so T2. And the only thing I think I really messed up on here was I need more siege. Like, I think 1 million siege is actually really not a bad idea, because if you got some siege, it actually, I think, helps. But really, even now, I'm like kind of referring to the concept of maybe what I do is just put more T2 into a single type. So it's like, here I'll have 6 mil across, but maybe I'll have 10 or 12 mil in a single type, because I'll just sit in that phalanx while people come by and hit me. It's like, it's not like they're going to know what I'm sitting in. The most they can do is test my march, but if I'm sitting in phalanx, how are they going to know? It's one of those things that it's like you can nitpick the living hell out of a lot of things in this game, and nitpick it to a degree where it's like, hey, there's always 1,000,001 different ways to skin a cat, as far as being able to go ahead and progressively build up your accounts. It's just that it's always been this way. It's just, it feels like before, I don't feel like it was as bad. It's just now, it's just like, you used to be able to trap with T1s. You can't even do that anymore. Can't trap with, hardly, you really can't trap with T4s anymore, really. a lot of people are starting to resort to T5s. And even the top trappers that I know are starting to look at that and go, shit, maybe I need to get T5, because it's like, what am I supposed to do when the average player base progressively builds up to the point where they can start sending full T5 rallies regularly? Yeah, it's like, you can't really compete against that unless you too have T5. Yeah, and I think it's a zero-sum game after a certain point. It's like, it's gonna get to that point, and I feel like as the game progressively gets to that point, I think I'm going to be more and more inclined to move away from it, because it's like, to even enjoy the game, you've got to put money into the game. And basically, at that point, it's just like, well, this is just toxic. Like, this is like this is a bad ordeal, all the same. It's like it hasn't. In fact, I've actually gotten away for the last couple of KBKs. I haven't spent a dime. That's the craziest thing about it, is you would expect somebody to lose that many troops every time and go, oh, yeah, you lost a lot of troops. You're going to have to be spending money to do that, yeah? No, not really, because all you got to do is basically put gems into the trove. You got to go into Colo and get down in the rankings. And you just micromanage and make gems and speeds every morning and every day. And it's the little things that add up, and eventually, it's like round 2 for KBK, and it's like, sometimes I'm, shielding for 7 days out of the week, and I don't touch my account for literally the rest of the day, except for gathering and or just the micromanagement of the tiny things. But that's it, and it's just, needless to say, that's really about all I have to gripe about today, I feel like. But I have nothing really all that exciting to say about Lloyd's Mobile anymore. It's just, even guides wise, I'm like, I don't even know where to go with it. It's like, I kind of feel like if I was to go into any direction with Lords anymore, it's just, what exactly do you guys want to see anymore? I really don't know, and I'm honestly all ears, because nowadays I don't feel like anybody really cares if I trap somebody. It's like, who cares? What does it matter? And I've already taught people how to do it, and there's plenty of other people that teach other people how to do it. So it's like, I don't know, losing purpose in this game. It's like it's a lost cause for me. It's starting to feel more and more like maybe I need to just kind of drift into something that people don't know anything about, because there's a lot of that out there. But needless to say, let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.